so the
Okay.
sexual assault. But before we get there, I just kinda wanted to answer your question. So full day kinder, I can't remember who asked this question, but it started in 2017. I
Okay.
think that was partly when we were talking about, I was showing you some of that data.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the feedback, and then I just put back on here, 3255 student dress and then school discipline, cause we said we were gonna revisit those.
Mm-hmm.
And both, high school principals have reached out to me and they said if we have a designated date, so like if it's next policy meeting, or if you wanna do it in July, like, they can get, a couple of parents, similar to what Lisa, her recommendation, and they would set all that up for us if we have a date that works for both you and Michelle.
Okay.
So, I figured when Michelle gets here, we can kinda stop and then get
Yeah.
that, and I told them I would get going on that. And
Okay.
then, the grant situation that Michelle had asked about, there doesn't sound like there's any funding really available that we could find. I had 3 people help me look. And then this was the bystander intervention, sexual assault prevention, counselors trained to assist victims of sexual violence. So this is the narrative that the high school sent me, and then
Okay.
both high schools chimed in and said that we do the exact same thing. And then I asked Heather Hamilton to help me with what the elementary does.
Okay.
And then it sounds like with Safe Passage, that when there is something that's happened, they will provide that initial support and then they send them out to communities, which is what we kinda talked
Yeah,
about.
okay.
So I just wanted you to know I followed up with those things, so it's a pretty lengthy narrative.
Let me finish reading this. So is there an annual, and I think I might have asked this before and gotten an answer, but I don't remember. So do we annually address, whether it's an assembly setting or however, bullying and harassment and all these other
Mhm.
types of things? Is that for, cause it says specifically with ninth graders, you know, they
Mhm.
visit every year, but I would assume that we do something
So like
that.
elementary does kind of an assembly and just they do prevention and they talk about like their choice wheel and conflict resolution, and so I know they all do something similar. I don't know if it's in an assembly, but there is
Sure.
a discussion with all the kids.
Okay.
And then I think the teachers do stuff, but it's not like a formalized, we call it bullying. They just do
Sure.
their, here's an outreach, and that's part of what, like with second step, when the counselors are going into the classrooms, just really talking about what do you do if you're having conflict, what's happening if you have a friend that you're, that is not being nice to you, what choices do you have, just really trying to empower them. So they have the conversation of no bullying's allowed, but then it's a lot of embedded support of like, okay, when this scenario, it's more scenario based, when this scenario happens,
Sure.
what do you do? To try to help equip kids to
Right.
ways to handle it instead of it getting violent or a negative exchange.
Okay. I can see Heather must have helped write part of this.
She did the elementary side of it, the one that
Yeah.
says the elementary, she wrote, yeah.
I could tell by some of the words that
Mhm.
used with her background,
Cause that is specifically, part of the 3285
Okay.
and all that feedback.
Okay. So, I guess we'll look at 3285. I just want to read through some of these comments.
And just so you know, one of the questions, remember we talked about we were gonna ask, so I just said we would love more feedback, and
Mhm.
I did drop downs of just Monday through Friday, and then I just did kind of time brackets to just see,
Okay.
and so they also, people included some different times in there.
Okay,
But again, we didn't get a lot of, feedback, but I think if that's one of the questions from here on out, that we just keep kind of asking that question as we go,
Mhm.
and then maybe we will see a trend a little bit.
right, okay,
But a lot of people said afternoons,
mhm,
well.
the
or they said
majority of
after
them.
school, yeah. Seemed like morning, nobody put morning. Maybe
Yeah,
one
one,
did,
yeah.
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, unfortunately, this is something we have to have, so we can't
Mhm.
ignore it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And a lot of the stuff that we have to address, we wish we didn't have to,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, but this is one, you know, we don't even have a policy for, so, and we should have.
mhm. Yeah, we have to, unfortunately.
Are you, reading,
The ones where they want us to either, you know, move on with teaching, which I absolutely agree, the subjects, but then
Right.
also the one where, the school shouldn't be handling it all, but I mean, we have to, under the law, we have to
right, we
do,
don't get to ignore it.
right, yeah. So, I guess I'd have to look at the, nothing about notifying the parents in 3285, that would probably be 3285P.
3285P is over there, Rosanna, right here, where it says copy, yep, right there.
At the
Other
end of
side.
the
Other
cell.
side. Oh, there we go.
Sorry. I know we talked about parents being a part of all of that, but maybe we just
Yeah, I guess
thought we
it's
wrote
not-
that in there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull it up online.
yeah, and then the other thing they were asking is what, which I imagine would be in the discipline policy, is
Mhm.
how do we handle, retaliation if it's suspected or is
And
happening?
I think that would fall under harassment or bullying, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I would think so.
Do you have
Hi,
pretty teeth?
clean teeth anyways, huh?
Yes, and I got the chatty gal, so I'm like, could you just start this up?
Yeah.
But I tried to be really polite, I'm like,
That's fine, we haven't been going that long. We
Okay.
were, it's Friday and everybody's
I
brains
was telling
are.
her my big long family drama, so.
oh no.
My stepdad had a stroke on Sunday.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
he's doing okay, so we're gonna figure it out, so, yeah.
I need to make a quick stop.
You're good. Do we wanna pause this for a second?
Sure, yeah, we can do that.
Just pause it, so, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. We were looking at 3285P, the feedback, and
Okay.
then we were just starting to possibly start looking at some of the policy around that.
Okay.
On our sheet, I did bring back dress code and school discipline that we can revisit. And then we still have all of our other annual policies.
Okay,
The other one I wanna just kinda throw in here and add, it's on our list, but it's at the bottom, it's not an annual one, is, remember Jake wants to do his dog
Yes.
therapy, and so
Yes.
we did do one, so at some point in the coming weeks, maybe if we can maybe
Yes.
skip around a little bit, just so
yeah,
if we're gonna allow that, he can start planning.
okay.
There was, an update to, ISBA's model policies with more recommendations and I don't remember how many there were
Is that what Rosanna sent us?
for the summer. I don't know, did you send us those? Oh, okay, thank
I
you.
haven't looked at them yet.
ISBA summer updates, yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
had a chance
okay,
to look at that.
alright,
And I believe I put them in here somewhere.
okay, that's fine. Yep, as long as we're aware of that, so that if we come to one of those policies, we're not
Mhm.
working on old stuff, we have the most
Mhm.
Yeah,
up-to-date thing.
I'll go through, and look at that, and see if any of the policies are anything that is on our current list or part of an annual policy or anything like that, so.
yeah, they're 1210 qualification terms and duties of board officers. It'd be interesting to look at. And I am curious, it says the board chair can make a motion as long as she hands over the chair responsibilities first.
What does that mean? Like, what would that look like in implementation?
And see, I have understood, just because, and so I'd like to look in statute, which we won't take time here. I've always understood that even though I'm the chairman, I never remove my trustee hat.
Right.
So I can make motions because I
Right.
am a trustee.
Right,
Right.
first
Has
and foremost, you
nothing-
are a trustee.
Exactly, it has nothing to do with being a chairman or wearing the chair hat,
That's
because
just
the
the
chair.
facilitator role.
Exactly, just keeping the meeting going, calling it to order and that whole gamut. So I'm really wanting to know if this is just ISBA, saying, well, this is how you should do it, because in their minds, the chairman should never, be making motions. But I never remove my trustee hat.
Mhm.
Well, here's the
So-
thing, then that would mean that you cannot vote either.
Right, which isn't true.
Right, which doesn't necessarily mean we will be able to pass anything.
Correct, because there's only 4 of us.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
I think maybe that wording is funky.
Well, and I would like to know on what statute that is being stood on.
It's not, it's a recommended practice.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
It says right
So
in their
it's not
thing.
backing,
No.
it's not backed by
No.
anything.
okay. Cause yeah, I mean,
Well, then you're, and
'Cause if
and
you
that, you're
hand
just
it-
a figurehead at that point then.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if I hand the chair position over to someone,
Mhm.
then that person can't vote. So you're still down to 4.
Right.
Right, and it's their opinion, which
Okay.
we have to remember that they are a political action committee, although they tout to be
Yep.
this organization, they're 100% political driven.
What would be the push for that though? Because then you, with everything, even if you're a 7 board, like then
But-
you're all even numbers, like why would that even be a recommendation?
In a traditional board of directors at the corporate level,
Okay.
Nonprofit sometimes, yeah.
yeah, or nonprofit.
Political, mainly political
There is just a
organizations, there is.
Well, on your board of trustees, you actually have a chairman.
Yep.
And then the trustees
Right.
fall
Okay,
under
so
line.
it is
Right.
truly just a.
Correct, but I was elected a trustee,
Right.
so I will always be a trustee first.
Well, and that's how every board is
Mhm.
in the school setting.
Correct. Which it's a different,
Right.
that's why when we get blasted for they're not following proper Robert's Rules of Orders, it's like, well, if you look at our policy, it says number 1, we may. And we sort of use a modified version because the trustee, I mean, there are 5 trustees that
Right.
take it down the road.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, the people didn't vote for a volunteer chairman, they voted for a trustee.
right,
To
Yeah.
speak for them.
yeah, so
To
that's.
take away your power seems weird.
Exactly. Because that was my thing. I'm like, there was someone out on Facebook land that blasted me for voting and how I had no right. And so then I really looked into it and I'm like, nowhere in statute, nowhere in rule does it say that I ever remove my trustee hat. And when I'm
Right.
voting, I'm voting as a trustee, not as the chairperson. And then
Why
I've
didn't
been-
they blast you 2 years ago at the very first vote that you voted? Like, why all of a sudden now?
Yeah.
you know,
That doesn't make
it-
sense.
It's
If they really
very-
thought that.
Right, right. People think all sorts of funny things.
Yeah.
But what I do appreciate sometimes when I get blasted for things is because I'm like, I don't think of everything. And so when people are doing their thinking, it prompts me to look and dig a little deeper because, again, nobody taught me anything in this position.
Right.
But that's where I was like, oh, because I've been chastised that I can't wear 2 different hats. It's like, but I am a trustee first. I was elected as a trustee.
Well, here's the thing is that, well, yeah, anyways, there's,
Yeah.
it's not true across the board.
True.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Oh,
And then Michelle, I don't know, I did a little, synopsis here because you know how you were talking about charging for transportation if we can. So there's this as far as extracurricular transportation, if it's, where attendance is optional, the
Okay.
district may charge.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking of, with the new minibuses and those, if any of those events qualify, just threw
Okay.
that out there.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing.
I wanna look at 2415, cause I wanna see what the statute says about
Mhm.
dyslexia, cause it's coming.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that is just it is recommended, this new policy, yeah.
And 8105, I think we converted it to 8110, it was one of the originals that we kinda looked at, but we never finished with it, because it was a cross-reference policy, so it's still one of the things we're working on. It wasn't the main one, but it was a cross-reference, so I think we combined 2 kind of a thing. but-
Okay.
Yeah. But there were other pressing policies to get to, so.
And then, I saw the last one because it was blank, so I had to reach out to ISBA and said, hey, this policy is blank, and she said it's blank because they removed everything from it. It was
Yeah,
just
there's
one
no-
year.
There's no leadership premiums.
Yeah, there's no leadership premium, so,
Okay.
and I looked at our policy and it doesn't specifically talk about leadership premiums. Does it?
I don't know that we ever had anything in the policy about leadership premiums. It wasn't our negotiated
Yeah.
agreement, but when they knew it was being removed and it wasn't gonna be funded, they took it out of the negotiated agreement.
Cause even the code they cite states nothing,
Mm-hmm.
so, okay. Alright, so we're on 3285, hopefully we can
Mm-hmm.
get that one accomplished.
And we have 3285P, but that's just a procedural.
Okay,
If you look at the feedback here, so I printed it for you there.
Thank you.
Several people did mention, the parent notification piece. And I think we have it in 3285, but we don't necessarily include it in P. P is more of what we do behind the scenes from the district level. So,
okay.
just wanna see what our language is for 3285.
Do you want me to bring up the current policy, Lynn?
No, I'm just, I have it right here, you're
Okay.
good. I feel like in this policy, we note that, you know, we're mandated reporters. So the assumption is obviously we're notifying parents, but it's not probably as clear.
I hate the very first sentence. I just don't understand why we're being, and I don't know why it's just hitting me so hard. It's like the board endeavors to take steps to prevent and respond. It's like we're making it fluffy. It's a serious policy.
Yeah, it's really not the board, it's the district.
Yeah.
The board wouldn't do anything.
So I do appreciate this comment. I'm trying to see if what we say, if anything, in here. But it's, this parent states, and it's the very first one, I would like to see within the policy that any acts of violence, sexual assault, or abuse
Mm-hmm.
be immediately reported to the parents of the accused and accuser. It can't be kept secret, and they're right. I mean, I personally think that should just be a given, but if we need to state that in the policy.
Well, I think that's what I was saying, like, I think it's implied, but it's not explicit,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
so you have
Right.
this parent, a couple of people say though, they're where are we noting the parent piece, and so, again, we talk about being mandated reporters and all of
Right.
that, but we probably do need to say something about parents are notified, or, cause I think it's more implied and.
It's cool that we've got people that are giving us dates, times.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the train this afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bothersome. I would like to make sure that the preventions and responses are also implemented at the elementary school level. Well, this is district level. I mean, this is every school. My daughter experienced sexual harassment by the same student in 3rd and 6th grade. Very little action was taken to discipline the perpetrator. That's not appropriate.
And this is one of the, she asked for some feedback, so I just haven't had a chance to reach out to her, but, I will reach out and see if I can get some more insight and.
Okay. So,
Oh, I just forgot if we want Lisa there next Friday, she's in Boise for that, safety thing. Are you
Okay.
okay if she's not here?
is she okay with not being here? Ask her, because if
Okay.
she'd like to be here, then we can pick a different, we can pick a different.
So I'm gonna ask her to pop her head in.
Sure.
Is it not coming up? Or the outline of the procedure should include, oh, maybe that's talking about the, I see. They're referring to the administrative procedures to implement the policy, include these things. It's not talking about, it's the very last paragraph. Yep, right there. So it says, procedure shall include description of prohibited conduct, definition, but that's all pertaining to the admin procedures to implement this policy, not the procedures of the policy. not do that.
I worked the very first sentence on that pol, on 3285. Rosanna, if you wanna scroll up. If we just start the policy out with relationship abuse and sexual assault committed by students or third parties strictly prohibited, and then just remove the fluff, drives me nuts.
You're taking out the foo-foo.
I am, I'm just tired of it, just get straight to the,
To the
point.
meat of it.
Yep.
Probably take out all this. Take out all this. And I think this part, I think, is important. So that people understand it's anything district related, whether on premise or not sponsored or not sponsored, cause even if it's on
My only,
district property.
my only question would be, could someone argue that school buses are not premises, are not district premises, and they're not district sponsored activities, cause a school bus is a district asset?
Legally, no, not according to the Title IX people, but we
Okay.
can leave the school bus in there
Okay,
if you want, if you think that might be an arguing point or a point of conflict,
I just don't, yeah,
we can do that.
okay. I just want, I mean, and I know it's supposed to be like anything, if we just say anything.
Right.
That is school related, I mean, that is the districts, that's what
Yeah.
we're saying.
I mean, we could leave it all in if we think we need the clarity so that people don't start, people don't start,
Well, we could do, let's see here, if we took that out.
But then you're back to the same thing we said with the dress code, if we start listing stuff out, then is it, I'm gonna find the loophole.
Everybody looks for loopholes. I mean, when you're doing something stupid and you wanna get away with it, you're looking for that loophole.
I don't understand, and grounds on the district campus, what does that mean?
I don't know, but maybe like the football field, or over here at the soccer field,
Okay,
which is the Rotary field, but,
okay,
or the bus barn. I mean,
right,
people may not know what it means, but
yeah,
It encompasses it all.
everything, yeah. I mean, we could cut it down to that. I would feel comfortable with that.
yeah, I'm good with that. We gotta get the parent notification in here somewhere, or in the procedure,
Well, I think
or
it's-
in both.
Yeah, well, in here, we don't even, yeah, we don't talk in here about even calling the parent of the abused.
No,
We don't, it's not,
But-
in either one, or it's.
Right, but what I'm wondering if is, it should be in the procedure. We just jump right into remediation during an investigation. And then following the conclusion of the investigation.
Right, all of it's through the lens of what the admin would do, or the person doing it
Right.
versus.
Red is new language, right?
ISB language.
Okay.
And then if you added new language, we highlighted it in yellow, right? It was red and then yellow, you highlighted in yellow?
Nope, I just do it in red.
Yeah, so, yeah. And you've
Okay,
changed all
so-
of this, so this is all your changing, cause it would be the first time we looked at it, it would be red,
So the first time we look at it would be,
red from ISBA, and then blue is from an old one, but then we continue just to change it, reflecting that it's new.
okay,
And then we
Okay.
put strike-throughs regardless if it's ISBA or not.
alright, so
which one are you on? This 3285?
I'm on P now,
Or
I've
you're
been
on
flipping
P?
around.
Okay.
Yeah, is there more we think we should, improve on 3285?
Um, no, I have not seen anything necessarily. If we're going to, put the parent notification in the procedure, yeah, I think that's where it would be. I think this is probably
What I
good.
wonder is if we can do this. I'm sorry, I think it should be.
One was a complainant and the other was the alleged perpetrator.
Or respondent.
Or respondent, yeah.
Well, in here, they talk about them as perpetrator.
Yep.
Complainant. you spell complainant?
Complainant.
Oh. A-N-T. Oh. Yeah, that would be right. Is that what we wanna say?
Mm-hmm.
So if we lay it out like that, it's a step-by-step action.
I like that better. So this is a, kind of stupid question.
No questions are stupid.
True.
It's true.
And maybe it's not appropriate, but what happens when there's like a restraining order, if there's action, do we note any of that in here? Does that, do we,
That would be part of the,
Like,
say that again.
like if there was, if something was found, somebody was found to be, it happened and they're guilty, and then now we're talking about a restraining order, or does any of that need to be noted? Cause then what does the district do in that scenario?
The
My
district would be-
understanding is they've had situations where there's been 2 kids and there is a restraining order and they're still allowed to attend the school, and so then you come up with a plan so their paths aren't crossing, but
Yeah, that would be in the administrative, that,
Mhm.
3285 said for the superintendent responsible to create the administrative handbook, or the
yeah.
procedure for this, that I would think would be in there, because, yeah, I mean, we could state something that, in the event, blah, blah, blah,
And maybe it's not, that's why I said it might be a dumb question, I just wonder if any of that, do we need to even get into the weeds of that?
I don't think so.
not in this policy from the board, from the, high level. That would be sort of a one-on-one thing, and then, because there would be a lot more involved in that from, at least from a Title IX perspective.
Well, cause then you have to ensure you're not discriminating and.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, I'm
sorry,
sorry.
no, you're fine.
No, you can finish what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I was gonna reiterate it just cause we say sexual harassment, discrimination and retaliation, and so, that was the only scenario where I could think of this could be a more in-depth process
Yes.
if they are actually found guilty and it's not a removal of the school. If
Right.
it's a removal, it's a non-issue, but that one scenario could have a greater impact.
And that would be at the administrative level, because that would be, now we've investigated, now here's the
Mhm.
outcome, now how do we,
That would be that individualized.
deal with all those things, Yeah, cause it might go as far as, I know in some of the training I sat through for the Title IX stuff, is that, might go as far as, where the students have to be put in different schools, or,
Mhm.
what have you, but.
We kind of say all of that in that very last paragraph.
Mhm.
Says whether the investigation determined that the alleged conduct occurred, remedies being offered to the complainant, and any sanctions imposed on the perpetrator that directly relate to the complainant, and any other steps taken to eliminate the hostile environment or prevent reoccurrence. Well, it's just
Oh, okay. I don't think it's me.
Well, I guess by the name, they may be the perpetrator.
My question is, it says if the Title IX coordinator determines the instance of sexual assault does not fall within the scope of procedure 3085P to address, it may be addressed through this policy, which to me would imply, well, there's something else that can be done if this doesn't work.
Or nothing can be done. The thing, what if they look at it and they say, well, it's really not a Title IX, so Title IX passes on. Well, that didn't really happen, so there's really nothing to address, or maybe it was.
But I guess if someone's coming forward and they're saying, you know, I've been abused or I've been a victim of sexual assault, and it doesn't fit that, well then it would fit here. The other option is that the person just says, no, I don't want to go any farther. But I guess what I'm struggling with is this is implying that, you know, if it doesn't go here, it might go here. If it doesn't go here, then it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, and it might be that somebody who's reporting it is neither the complainant nor the perpetrator, and what they're reporting isn't actually what they saw was not what they actually thought they saw.
Okay.
You know, in that instance.
Or it's hearsay, or.
Right, and in that instance, you know, so where is that at? What is?
It's right there in the second paragraph. If the Title IX coordinator determines the instance of sexual assault, and we're speaking specifically to sexual assault, does not fall within the scope of the 3085 procedure to address, I don't like the way that ends, it may be addressed through this policy. I would think that if it's sexual assault, and it's not going through procedures 3085, well then it needs to go through procedures 3285. I just don't understand why it's a
Would
may.
it come back to, student discipline? Because this is about students.
We're talking about sexual assault though.
But
to
we're
her
under
point,
the
if it's-
assumption that it's true. If it's not true, or if it's not really, here's the thing. So,
Here, let me go get a rag.
Stop recording.
That's fine.
This one's gonna be a lot of stops and starts.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Do you think we should state the parent make contact with a parent or one parent? I mean, because if students have two, are we saying that they're going to call both parents, or does it matter?
Probably I think if we just make it individual, because they're gonna call until they talk to a parent, right? I don't know that and it should probably be a parent or guardian or
Typically go
slash.
over whoever
whatever they
the
do.
first, and the only time that would be different, that it would be both, is if there's something that states that. So there was
Okay.
definitely some parents that come in and say, we want 2 copies of report cards, we want to
Okay.
have 2 conferences, but we know that going in.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So was there anything else? I didn't
Mainly
even
just the
notice.
parents and
Yeah, that was.
not understanding that we're basically legally have to have these policies. that's interesting. No, that last comment, there was a time reference there about the notification, by the end of the school session for that day. So in other words, they don't want everything to happen and take place and then it's a day later or what have you. So, yeah, mhm.
I mean, I guess I will say, I do feel like, everybody makes their earnest effort to do that, but sometimes, you don't hear about something until all of the kids are gone, and then somebody will call back and report something, or, it's, school's out at 3 and you hear about something at 2:55 and you've had no time to do any legwork, and so then it does carry over to the next day just because you don't want to,
I did change the words on one, so you can look at that and see. If,
Okay.
you know what I mean, that would be the only
Yeah.
concession. I mean, I think everybody does their due diligence, and then I would still say, you're trying to call parents and say, hey, there's a report, I haven't had time to follow up, blah, 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 but when you do that, then people start
Right,
talking and getting their
Right,
story
right,
straight
right.
versus just,
right,
and that happens more often than not, that it's 3 o'clock and you're just getting wind of something. Or it's the kid waits till everyone's gone and then comes into the office cause nobody's there, so it feels, nobody realizes they're saying something, so there's no time.
mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. And if whomever it is coming to you, and then you immediately call the parent, I mean, we haven't really established whether that happened or not or what, but I guess the parent should be notified.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
that's
hard
a
part
hard
is
part,
because
yeah.
do you tell parents right at the very beginning before there's any investigation? Because, I mean, it could be something super innocent. It could be that, again, the first thing in mind, you wanna say it's a girl versus a boy, but it could be the girl did
Right.
something and it was a passive, not like,
Right.
is the boy taking it, and so then don't think about this as in a high school situation, an elementary situation, it could be really innocent, but you haven't even, so now you're telling parents,
Right.
this is what, and of course parents are gonna go to, it could be a sexual assault situation, and it's a first grade boy that tried to kiss a little girl on the cheek. And again, not that it doesn't need to be addressed, but, you haven't even had a chance, so now you've told this parent that somebody's accused him of sexual assault.
Right, right, right.
And you have zero context of it. Or do you deal just like discipline, is you do your due diligence to get a sense of what happened, and then you call parents once you know there's been some realm of investigation, so that you're not calling them going, this is what the accused said, I have no details yet, so let me do my piece.
But
Cause then what do they do with that information?
But this says if the Title IX coordinator determines, so it's stating that the Title IX coordinator has already determined that sexual assault did not occur
Well,
within that procedure. So then this procedure takes place, right? That's my understanding of it.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not technically a Title IX instance of sexual assault, which has a plethora of combinations. Well, we can, we can just do that.
Or what about using the term as soon as practicable? Instead of immediately, if that's.
The hard part, then that's subjective.
Yeah,
Cause then what I think is practical versus what you think is practical. And that's where it just gets hard as a principal, because, you know, there's definitely parents that feel like they should be notified right off the bat, but I will tell you in my encounter with anything, to take out the nature of the sexual assault, but even with discipline, when I call them and say, hey, a situation has happened, I don't know anything yet, they're happy that I've called, but it's frustrating because what do they do with that? Now they're just sitting waiting for me to call back with more information on both fronts, you know? If you're the aggressor, then you're worried about the penalty of your kid. If your kid is the, you know, victim, then you're worried about what's happening with your kid, and you have no information. And because of confidentiality, you can't come in when the investigation is happening and be a part of.
Yeah, before there was nothing in there, huh? Let's look at what Coeur d'Alene School Districts, if there's just straight.
Just RSBA or not.
Yeah. And we could look at some of the others too. Like I said before, I always like Coeur d'Alene because I know that they had attorneys sitting on their board, so. Mhm. So what are theirs?
Did you like theirs? Do you want me to look at somebody else's?
Yeah, I just out of curiosity. Oops, I'm on the wrong one. Let me go back. Okay, to whom and why, okay. Take retaliation. Okay, it looks like it's pretty much out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like they changed much.
I feel like I've looked at a couple of them and they're super slim.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't want to touch this one with a 10-foot pole.
Well, and it has so many, you know, it's almost like octopus. It can become all kinds of things, you know,
Right.
once you get into it.
Yep.
And this is one of those things, like you're saying, is if we think about the lower grade levels, somebody could be, you know, two little boys are out there on the playground and one runs up and whacks the other one on the behind like the football players do. And,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to get too carried away. I do agree with contacting the parents. I do agree with immediately contacting the parents, but I don't know when immediate happens. That's the thing.
So, this one says.
I hate to put a bunch of if this, if that kind of things in there.
Well, like same as ours, this one does not address notifying parents.
Right,
Because
no,
it really is the action of the administrator.
yeah.
Or whomever is,
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's left out. Does the Child Protective Act, because they keep referencing that, does that say anything about notification of parents?
We go back to 16, it gives a lot of definitions. I mean, a lot of it's pretty much written, the Child Protective Act is pretty much written as if the guardian, custodian, parent, whomever is in charge of the child is the perpetrator, you know? Household member, foster care, it's sort of written from that.
Yeah, it doesn't say
Perspective?
anything, yeah.
Okay, so the only, in the very beginning of the Child Protective Act, the only time constraint is within reporting, it's 24 hours of reporting, so
Yep,
we can say the 24 hours of,
right. And that's the
Um,
same for the restraint, you have to let parents know within 24 hours
Yeah.
if there was. Now, again, that's a situation where you would never do that and not tell that parent
Right.
that day, but, technically, there's
Right.
supposed to be some.
so what if we take out immediately and just say within? Let me write it. I did write it out, okay. Within. Oops. So, the discussion has been immediately was great, but Lynn was.
Reality.
Yeah, well, like Lynn was saying, so at 2:55, somebody comes to you and says, hey, blah, 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 school's out at 3, there's no time to say, hey, did you do this, you know, what happened, what's going on,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. So we just went to the Child Protective Act and decided since every other time constraint is 24-hour period, even for restraining students or whatever, which I don't know,
Just
they might not
wanna be
like.
able to do your due diligence with the investigation, but sometimes when you call parents and go, hey, this was just reported, something, we don't have it, like, what do they do with that information? And then
Right.
if it's after hours, then people start talking, and then it's really hard to get an honest answer of if, because then people start talking, and sometimes kids will wait until everyone's gone
Mhm.
when no one, so that nobody realizes they're coming in to say something, and so it's, sometimes you are getting it at the last hour, and so there's no time to really do due diligence other than to call parents.
Well, I think what I gathered from what parents were saying is they don't want the district jumping into their investigation of the full, and then long after the fact,
Right.
we reach out to the parents. That has to be the first step. Now, whether the parent answers the phone or whether it's able to communicate at right spot, then, you know, that's a whole different thing. But at least if we show, look, we're trying to reach you, but we have to continue. And then when we can reach out, you know, at least we have a 24-hour window, which is
Would
good.
you, are you comfortable with a principal or whomever, cause it could be whoever's doing the investigation, they actually, so it gets reported, I get told that this happened. Am I calling the parent then, or am I waiting to get a sense of what happened, so that I'm not, cause what if it's not true, what if it's a, like I said, I get, okay, high school it feels bigger, but now it's first graders out playing and they slapped each other during a football game.
Well, and we have a
Right.
person that's, you know, 3rd and 6th grade not taken seriously. That's not appropriate.
Right, so at what point do we notify parents? Do we have a little bit of information first? Do we do it right when there's that first?
Well, I would think, and this is just me walking through the process, say, you know, Susie comes into the office and says, I wanna talk to, you know, the principal or
Mhm.
whatever, so they go and they talk, and Susie's like, this happened, and the principal's obviously going to exhibit empathy towards the student. Personally, I think the parent should be called right then.
Okay.
And both sides of the fence, hey, your daughter's reported this, hey, this allegation's been made against your child, we're going to look into it. I think that's what should happen, but I don't know if that's practical or reasonable, cause I think at the high school, or the middle school even, you've already got the influence of the SRO and the armed guard, or what, I don't remember what we're calling them now, but
Right.
the special people.
Right.
And at that level, I think what parents are most concerned about, which has been expressed to me,
Mhm.
is that their children's rights aren't even being,
Right.
you know, it's like, well, you did this, and they're being pursued as a criminal, which isn't appropriate in the school setting. So there, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't.
Time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence. However, so is parent notification.
Mhm.
Because if your child, if that's being alleged against your child, or your child's alleging that, as a parent, I want to be involved.
Mhm.
You don't have the right to take that away from me.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, I just think.
I think
he
it-
went back to immediately.
I think it's grayer when you look at it through the lens of now we're talking about 5 and 6 year olds, and so
Correct.
that's where I agree with you, like I can see,
Mhm.
and we're writing it for a district, not for a
Right.
grade level, yeah.
Right, so, you know, I just.
And some of it's presentation, I mean, I get it, if somebody accused, I'm just trying to put myself, if I'm the mom and somebody accused one of my sons,
Right,
I would wanna know that that in fact happened, I'd wanna be able to check in with my kid to make sure everything
Right.
was okay.
Right.
And then I'd wanna be able to be there through the process of
Right.
like, okay, you know, that the due diligence was done to recognize like, okay, he was accused, innocent until proven, that kind of thing, so I get that.
well, and I would think, cause like, honestly, having all grandsons terrifies me for that respect.
Mhm.
But as I know, my daughters would be like, tell me what happened.
Mhm.
And the mother-son relationship, communication, or father-son, whichever the child is closest to, they're gonna tell you what happened. And then you can be your advocate for your child of, look, this is what my child believes happened, this is, you know,
Right.
the intentions, etc. And so it can all just get resolved in some fashion.
Right.
But yeah, I think,
I think what what scares me about any of this is on either side, if kids are not given due process, because
Right.
it's just like social media. Somebody says it and it's the truth.
Oh yeah.
And are we taking time to do due diligence? And I mean, that can be catastrophic on either end.
Exactly.
And so,
Yeah. So I mean that was my that's why I put a but I don't mind the 24-hour thing, given that, you know.
We're gonna get pushed back on that too, I think.
But my biggest thing
Yeah.
is, I mean, in trying to juggle these,
Right.
parents are concerned with their children's rights being violated, or not even acknowledge that they
Right.
they have rights.
and kids are kids and don't have any, it's scary, and so,
Yeah.
no, I get it. I mean, and in all the other policies, people, they didn't even address the parent side of it because of, it's more about what just the administrator is going to do, so I think we leave it there, and then, you know, we just tell parents, we're just informing you, we're gonna do our due diligence, and even it provides transparency of walking through, like, these are some of the steps,
Mhm.
we're gonna get written statements, we're going to, and this would be the same if it was, like, take out the sexual nature of this, it's the same
Right.
if it's for the discipline policy.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, that procedure should still be the
Right.
same.
Right,
And
exactly.
so, we're not just assuming that what gets reported is the truth until we know we have evidence of that. We are giving both kids, we're hearing what's getting reported and believing that this is how this student feels, giving that other student, we're not, you know, creating an aggressor and a victim right off the bat. We're
Right.
being neutral and figuring out what happened to the best of our ability.
Right.
Because there have been situations where kids have been accused of things and it was 100% not true.
Right.
And then there were times that, you know, it was true, but people didn't want to believe that that kid could do.
Right.
So
Right.
there's all of those.
Exactly. It's all over the place.
Yeah, and having boys, I get like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so.
Or the other student didn't even realize like that was offensive to that person, or that person
Yep.
interpreted as that, or.
Well, your example was perfect. It's the football game and the boys are slapping
Right.
each other because that's what they see.
Right,
Well, some other kid could have had a bad experience.
Right.
And have, this other little boy has no idea, or
Right.
little girls, I mean.
Right.
And so it's innocent, but that's where the gray gets, but then I think it's a discussion and you're explaining it to both sets of parents, and, you
Mhm.
know, I've had parents that wanna pursue something a little bit more, and it's been something, in my opinion, innocent. Well, you always have the right to call law enforcement.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I'm not, but
Right.
that is always your right, and then they can do their piece.
yeah,
They always have that ability.
sure, yeah. Oh. Okay, so do we think we're good for this?
Oh my goodness, apparently I'm super popular today.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to get their last minute hires in.
Yeah, I think we're good with this.
Okay. So 3285P and 3285, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So I'm gonna put these down at the bottom for,
And then what was the wording that we needed to change? Oh, the dress code we're putting off until the
Yeah.
Friday thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
And school discipline, we can, yeah, that was a whole language thing that I didn't really catch when we were doing it. But I don't know if we wanna,
tackle that.
Yeah.
Which one was it again? I don't remember. 30.
3330. It would be nice though to see if there's any small little policies we can be like, oh, let's just check that off.
I feel like you could maybe with the 3320, the substance and alcohol, you already kind of started that one. And then,
Did we?
3320. Okay.
it's on our green sheet.
Oh, yeah, I actually have it open, so we must have.
Yeah.
Oh, I was comparing the two. Okay, so we must have started on it then. Yep.
Uh-huh. Yeah, cause this was the one where I'm like, we call it controlled substance, we call
Mhm.
it drugs, we call it like 3 different things
Slew of
throughout this
names,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, we have to pick a name and
Consistency.
move forward.
That doesn't make sense.
And then there was some formatting stuff.
Um.
I mean, the other option though is then to state that controlled substance and alcohol is being referenced as drugs throughout the
Mhm.
policy. Do we wanna do that, or do we want to identify controlled substance and drugs? Or controlled substance and alcohol?
Yeah, I see, because we do, and then we say alcohol or controlled substances. So, I mean, we might as well keep it consistent.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my thing.
Yeah, mine as well. But.
So is it called drug intervention or substance intervention?
Well, technically it's substance use disease and they do SUDS intervention. Is the new
Is what? Say it again. It's
SUDS,
Oh.
substance use disease.
Mm.
And so it's SUDS intervention now, it's not drug intervention.
Yeah, that's why I asked if, or
Yeah.
just substance intervention, because that's what we're calling them.
Right.
Substances. Because we're not gonna diagnose anybody as having a disease.
Do we want to say substance intervention or just leave it at intervention?
Yeah. Cause it doesn't matter what.
What the substance
Yeah.
is.
Um, 27, 32. There a reference to the code too, so that I know code 37, the 2732C part is actually under Article 5 of that uniform controlled substances. So there, I don't know. Fix that.
What's that? I'm sorry.
The reference to Idaho code right below where you're at,
Yeah.
so the 2732C portion is actually in Article 6 of that. I always get my Roman numerals messed up. Hold on. Oh no. Why? What happened over here? Oh, I just lost my spot. How did I do that? 37, 27, 32. Okay. Yeah, for Article 4. So it's 3727, Article 4, 2732C. This is defined in statute. I don't know that this is defining the violation, the penalties of such. This isn't defining what that is.
I found a section 33-210. And that one talks specifically for kids being under the influence. And, where is it here? Yeah, 33-210, students using or under the influence of alcohol or controlled substances. And then it does reference that 372732C in there.
Yeah, okay, well, we should probably make sure that one is also referenced at the bottom of this policy, but that statute being cited is not,
Well,
it's the penalties of such, it's not a term. That's not where the definition of the term is.
well, okay, so the definition of the term,
Mhm.
let's see. Is,
2701,
yeah,
Article
2701.
1.
It's
Yep.
01E.
Yep. Right, because that's what it's saying, relating to use, possession, or being under the influence of controlled substances or alcohol as that term is defined in statute. So they have the wrong, that's
Yeah, this is all right.
penalties, so yeah, that needs to be, 2701E. Which then takes you to Article 2. So let's see what Article 2 says. Yeah, we'll just leave it as that. Article 2 is quite lengthy. It follows every schedule. So I wanna look at that one that you were talking about, Rosanna, that was in 33-210.
210.
Oh, that was 201.
You just gotta scroll down, it's on, down here somewhere.
Alright, so, let's see here.
Page
There.
6.
Okay.
Well, the thing is 2701 only describes controlled substance.
Right,
Um,
not alcohol.
right.
But
so-
33-210 is alcohol and controlled substances, but then they refer you back to the 2232C
Mm-hmm.
defined as, but 2732C is penalties. So I don't understand why they keep referencing it, but. Oops.
Yeah, the word alcohol is not on there at all.
scroll down just a little bit. Yeah, unfortunately, some of that I think is the part that says the fact that a student has previously disclosed use of alcohol or a controlled substance shall not be deemed a factor in determining reasonable suspicion at a later date. But the things that jump out at me on our SRO MOUs is that is the way it's worded exactly what they're doing. It's like they're keeping it, they identify these people within the schools who may fall, you know, the nice term being at risk. I mean, that is exactly what they do.
And then this specifically from ISBA says that in and of itself does not establish reasonable suspicion.
Yeah.
Well, apparently I lied. This isn't gonna be as
Yeah.
so sorry.
Every time we think we have one, it's like, gosh dang it. See, this is another thing that it would be great for other people other than us to be involved so that they can see now here's a statute and all the way through it says the board shall do this, the board shall do this, the board has to write this, the board must establish this. It doesn't say administrative staff of the school district, it's all on the board to do all these things.
So outside of the scope and people wanna say there's three things, there's
Right.
just three things.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
That's why your duties list has grown and grown. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen it lately.
Yeah. I'm fully aware of the duties. I was aware of the duties, of course I've learned that much more, but I was aware of that when I ran, and then I was shocked at the duties that are always presented. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know if you've read this statute, or the IDAPA rules. It's like, no, that's not, the board does have many duties, they're governing body, you know?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna have to read that statute that,
You want me to go back to this one?
no, I'll keep reading, but I'm gonna have to drill down to that and see why they keep referencing it, what is in there that they think that, 2732, I mean, I must be missing something, it says penalties, but, here we go. Oh, okay, I see what so I think they're specifically referencing the first paragraph, but I'll keep reading. Cause it does sort of outline what they mean by under the influence. Okay. Only if you're unlawfully under the influence. It says, I just have to read it. Notwithstanding of this section or any other provision of the law, To the contrary, any person who is unlawfully under the influence of cocaine, cocaine-based methamphetamine, heroin, or phencyclidine, while in the immediate possession of, but only if you're like, when would you be lawfully under the influence of those things? Although I did know a judge who set a base at somebody who was 5 times over the
What are you
detectable limit.
reading? Where are you reading?
The Article 4 of that 372732C that they keep referencing.
Right.
And down in paragraph E, it says unlawfully under the influence. So
Right.
I guess you could argue that you were lawfully under the influence.
Is that a thing?
Would would any of those be prescribed for any
No.
medical?
I mean, not that I'm aware of. I don't know anybody that would prescribe cocaine, cocaine-based methamphetamine, heroin, or phencyclidine.
Yeah, except you're unlawfully under the influence while
Right.
you're in the possession of a loaded firearm.
Right. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I mean, even excluding the firearm, I want to know when you can lawfully be under the influence of these things.
You never know.
Yeah, well, like I said, I know a judge who used a drug test that was 5 times the detectable limit of cocaine as a baseline.
Wow.
Yeah, as long as we didn't go over that baseline, I guess it was all right.
Crazy.
That was the argument. It's baseline.
Crazy.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
When you choose
When
to
you're out
use.
there.
Yes, I guess that's lawful, right?
In my criminal days.
You could go update the users. Hey guys.
I heard the judge
Just
say
as
it. We
long.
can get the transcript of the trial even.
This is gonna end up on social media. Just love it.
Yes, because we're still recording.
Oh, we're tired. It's Fridays. It's been a long week.
Do you guys wanna shut it off? It's close to, I was gonna say it's close to midnight.
Yeah. All the 12s seem the same, doesn't matter.
You feel like there's a lot more work on this one?
Maybe. When I was just trying to walk through its references and statute and
Why?
I do appreciate the statements for the parents and the parental
Yes.
involvement and all that. That's nice to read. So let me go back to this now. Well, I guess. Such a hard one. I hate that it always, but I guess that's just a precaution. There's nothing you can do, that we always make the statement that, you suspend the student until we know that this is or isn't true kind of thing, but I guess that's just the way it is. I mean, I don't know what else you would do, because what if it was true,
Well, I think, is it really suspension or is it's more isolation?
I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah, well, this one does say, well, let me go back over here. Sorry, I was reading an old comparative. And you know what the other thing is that it drives me batty over these things too, is that I feel, whatever the word is, sympathy, bad, whatever, for the teachers and the administrators that they keep getting, that they're like put in all these positions. It's like, we have to keep doing these things, but Yeah, my brain's good. We can go back through, I mean, do you wanna keep working on this one, or, okay?
We're good, we can.
Do we wanna stop?
Yeah, I'm good.
Wrap it up.
Right, so
Yeah.
we'll come back to 33